Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for making it all the way to the end of the day. We're painfully aware of the fact that we stand between you and your trains, potentially, or at least the cocktail hour, so appreciate you making it to the final session of the day. But one thing I can promise you is we've got an absolutely fantastic panel, so I think this is going to be a very lively conversation about collaboration in the external supply chain. So my name is Josephine Coombe. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Nulogy. We're a software company. We provide supplier collaboration solutions that allow brands to collaborate with their external supply chain partners, as well as the leading contract packing software solution. And it's my pleasure to be moderating this panel discussion today. So what I'm going to do is go around the panel here to have everybody introduce themselves and say a few words about their companies, just so that we've got a sense of who's who. And then also to start with a question of what does collaboration mean to each of you, and why did you want to be a part of this particular panel? So we'll start with you, Manuel.
With pleasure. So Manuel Becker, I'm in charge of operational excellence and central supply chain for external manufacturing within Sanofi. Sanofi is a pharmaceutical global company. And so I've been part of Sanofi for 20 years, and I spent 10 years in supply chain field and 10 years in external manufacturing management. And obviously, when you are dealing with external partners to manufacture and supply your products, your medicines, collaboration with CMO, external network, is really a top item in our strategic agenda.
Thank you. And Gavin?
Okay, I'm Gavin Withers. I'm a director at Keswick Enterprises. We're a supply chain service group with a dozen or so subsidiaries who turn over about £60 million per annum. We provide a wide range of supply chain services, spanning from freight forwarding through mail fulfillment, co-packing, e-commerce, procurement, and distribution. Personally, I have a background in manufacturing. I started my career in Unilever. And have worked a lot in third-party logistics as well before joining Keswick 18 years ago. For me, collaboration in the supply chain is very much about a partnership with our customers and trying to understand very deeply what they need from their partners and trying to provide solutions in an increasingly broad range of areas.
And over to you, Keivn.
Yes, I'm Keivn Wong. I'm one of the co-founders and the chief operating officer for Nulogy. So for 20 years, Nulogy's been helping external supply chains operate more efficiently. For folks like Gavin, helping them run their shop floors and their operations more efficiently. But also, we recognize that supply chains compete, not companies compete, and that success is sort of like a shared thing. So we've been working more and more with brands like Sanofi to operate those external supply chains almost like their internal, bring that efficiency and visibility to those complex external networks of suppliers. So collaboration for me is kind of solving that. That's what we're passionate about. It's sort of the mutuality of having companies win together and together be able to deliver those objectives and KPIs for their sort of shared customers.
Great, thank you. And Oliver?
Hi everyone. Oliver Hunt. I guess my title is I'm head of supply logistics and service for KP. What I really am is a brand ambassador for some of your favourite crisp brands, snack brands, Butterkist, Hula Hoops, McCoy's. 20% of the crisp market. We have an outsourced 3PL provider that we've just moved to. We have pretty mature internal S&OP process that models the P&G model. I've been at KP for 5 years. I did 15 to 20 years in other manufacturing businesses with 3PLs and without 3PLs, and prior to that 10 years working Safeway's head office, for anyone that's old enough to remember pre-Morrison's. So I guess collaboration, playing different roles within that whole piece of how we get food to market. I guess why am I here? I'm here to bring some real-life experiences that we've encountered in the last few years, some of which you'll be familiar with COVID or long-term supply chain lead time risks. But also, I can trump that I've had a cyber attack that took my business down for about a month, no system at all. And I've just had a 3PL transfer of my whole business that took 7 months to do and was a rocky road. So here to share a number of experiences and some learnings I guess I've taken from what I originally thought collaboration was 30 years ago in my career to what it now is when there are so many multiple partners and complexity in what it takes to move your product, whatever it happens to be. We're a pretty fast, agile business, hold 7 to 10 days stock holding. I guess also to complement some of the longer lead times that we've got within some of the other discussions you'll hear today. Thank you.
So Manuel, maybe we'll start with you, and perhaps you can give us a sense of some of the goals you have for Sanofi's supply chain and how you're going to measure whether you've got to those goals over time.
Well, I guess, so we are manufacturing internally a large portion of our medicines, and we have a pretty large internal manufacturing network. More than 50 sites all over the world, but we also produce a fair portion of our medicines with CMOs, and I think we've reached a level where basically our processes, the standard has been pretty developed across our internal manufacturing network, and it's time for us to bring also our external network, which is expanding and where complexity is increasing at the same level. So really, this is an important challenge for us. We are managing a quite complex supply chain. Our medicines can be produced in several sites or can go through several sites to get to the market, and managing, these flows are quite complex and requires, of course, a centralization of the supply chain management, and equally, the same level of visibility across the chain, which we don't have obviously today. And end-to-end visibility is absolutely, paramount if we want to achieve our objectives. So really, collaboration, entering into the space of digital collaboration with our CMO is becoming a really important objective. We can say also, with new technologies, we are developing some new tools supported by artificial intelligence. And in order to be able to fully leverage on the investment we are doing in this field, to encompass the entire manufacturing network, not only internal, but also internal and external, I mean, it requires to move into a more active integration, digital integration with our external manufacturers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, one of the things we're already touching on is kind of solutions around enabling more collaboration and how digitalization plays a key role in that. But just to sort of backtrack a little bit, can we dig in as a panel into this question of what are some of the barriers currently to good collaboration and effective visibility into an external supply chain that's perhaps quite different from some of the challenges in internal manufacturing environments? Thoughts on that, maybe Oliver?
I think you've got obviously the technical capability of getting hold of the data, and then ultimately the willingness to share that data clearly. I guess we have quite a lot of internal manufacturing sites. We do have some external, but it's not really a great deal of. We have access to the internal data ourselves, and external data is to be shared and interfaced, so it needs to obviously connect correctly. But I think the willingness to then share the insight of what that data is super important. I guess our external partners we will treat as exactly the same as we would internal partner, which, I mean, it comes down to basic fundamentals of trust and clarity and together working on what the gap is and how you together move forwards without that sort of stick approach of we tell you because we're the biggest player in it. So I think a lot of it often just comes down to standard behaviours, but you need to have the system that provides the clarity from which is your starting point.
So both sort of cultural trust issues as well as the data has to be able to be accessible.
And I think you can receive data. The problem is you might just receive data at a particular level that is interpreted in a manner that actually isn't the correct decisions to be making at that time. So I think the right amount of data that helps you provide the right solution or the right need to whatever the issue is. I think that if that's there, then actually the solutionizing piece is how you behaviorally work together. As long as there's not a distractor in the data or the lack of the data, I think that's critical.
Gavin, I know you've done a lot of work with your brand customers sharing data, and you've been quite advanced really for your co-packing operations in terms of being more transparent with brand customers. Can you comment on that sort of trust enabled by digitalization?
Yeah, the big change for us, which was enabled for us through our Nulogy solution, was really giving more than just periodic access to one of our biggest clients to the information from our site. So we did a piece of work which involved the customer being able to see the cradle to grave of their product going through our site. So whether that was the stock arriving, the orders for that stock arriving at our site, through to the issue of the components into the factory, right the way through to the completed product then appearing in our warehouse and then the orders being booked to take that stock off the site. So it was something that really allowed our customer to have the same level of live interaction with the production process as they would have within their own factories. And that's where we saw for the first time really that we were being considered like an internal factory unit to a large extent.
Interesting. And Keivn, at Nulogy, this is the bridge that you're focused on building. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think those points are really well made. I think the other thing I was thinking about that's really important for breaking down the barriers is sort of just getting alignment on expectations, definitions, like, you know, what is that KPI? How's that actually going to be measured? You know, how are we going to define performance when you hit this or that? What are the expectations of when I'm going to get, you know, demand finalized, or, you know, when I get visibility on when a shipment's ready to go? I think some of those things are sort of transcend technology. Like, technology helps enable making sure those things actually get visibility, but, you know, you need to be clear on that between organizations, sort of in partnership, before, you know, that can really make sense as well too. So I think that's something I would add in there.
So getting expectations aligned on the side of the brand and the external manufacturing partner. In your experience, Manuel, are those expectations aligned, or are they keeping up, the external supply chain partners, with your expectations?
Yes, I think that when you were talking about barrier, of course, technology is one. Implementing it requires some effort and alignment. Of course, it requires some trust. So in reality, it can happen only if you build really a partnership. And this partnership, I mean, is important because not only you are going to share data and to make them visible on both sides real time, and you need to agree and align on what you are going to share. But then it opens a completely new space. And you enter into performance. Performance means that not only your partner has to perform at the level expected, and he has to manage it, but then you become two to do it. And by sharing data, by showing real time how you progress into processes, then you can enter into, performance management. And you can implement beyond sharing data and having a visual end-to-end. You start to enter into a conversation with your partner, how to deal with some difficulties, some challenges, how to share best practices, how you build some rituals where basically you act not as a customer and a partner, but one joint team focusing on the same topic and trying to bring solution to both ends, to both companies. And that's really an opener for us. It's really, it makes, it's a transformation of the relationship. It starts with willingness to share data, to connect, making the effort, to define a common language, and then after you enter into some much more interesting discussions about performance, how to bring to the next level what it takes. The partner can do all the efforts he wants. He will never be as strong as, working together on the topics. Improving processes, implementing standard approach, sharing best practices. We can learn a lot from our partners, but they can also learn a lot from us. And this makes them stronger.
Yeah.
The mention of relationship there really resonates with me. I think, I think of like, it's almost like a bit of a marriage. If we're going to show the data, don't beat me up if I made a mistake, because then like, you're not going to want to share that data. So like, if you make a mistake, you jump all over the person, then they're not going to feel so good about sharing that. So definitely when you start moving to that greater visibility, I think it's important to respect the relationship, because otherwise people are going to retreat from having that, the joint partnership that everyone really wants.
I was going to just add a couple of points, thank you. Somebody once said to me earlier in my career, trust everybody and be disappointed later. And I think that's a wise approach, okay? You may find it turns out to be naive, but actually, who enters into a relationship without that initial trust? And I guess I wanted to just give an analogy, and this is part of some of the spirit, I suppose, of relationship. Everything's a safe space. This is a safe space here. I have a relationship with the taps in the toilet, and I'm sure if anyone's been into the gents today, okay, the relationship between me and the taps don't work. There's not a governance process. Nobody seems to be accountable for that, and I've been splurted 3 times every time I've tried to wash my hands. So how does that make me feel? Interestingly, in my earlier career, I'd have probably ripped the tap off or shouted and screamed. I think I've got a space here to kind of amplify that. Somebody's accountable, we'll make sure who it is. Clearly there's no rules of training or how to use it or any interaction, but here's a perfect example of a relationship that's broken down. What's the need state? I don't want to get wet, I want to wash my hands, I don't want to have this experience when I walk out of there. What's the fix? I don't know, but we'll make somebody accountable. Somebody clearly isn't, and these are the kind of behaviors that kind of sit there. But you need a safe space. I hope I haven't got somebody into trouble who's responsible for taps, but if they have, hey, there's an accountability piece missing here. And I think it's being brave to have those conversations, which is interesting if the dynamic between the relationship does feel like it's not starting with that trust. And actually, even the panel here, we've met 10 days ago. We've had conversations ongoing because I think everybody's into that piece of spirit. So I think look at the relations you have with providers who have a purpose to provide a service. If it meets your need state, why is it this? It should only be collaborative ways of working and do it together. The more diversity you put into everything you're doing, you're going to come out with a better solution. And actually that sets you up for when adversity does strike, you don't get into the state of thinking, I'm going to rip the tap off the flipping.
I almost set you up perfectly that I sprayed myself a little.
Well, there we go. Okay.
So
whoever's listening, there are 2 of us that are amplifying this problem. So yeah, I thought, I think the governance piece, so bring it back, governance piece and accountability on both sides, safe space. What are the things that are priorities to sort out? If you've got that, then we work in all different areas within supply chain, but the same principles come back. And if you can do that, then any element of change with change management support, you will find that actually pretty much anything can be overcome. But you're better together. You've got to enter into that marriage openly.
This is very interesting how we constantly are circling back to the sort of concept of trust. And I think in years past, and maybe I'll direct this your way, Gavin, there's been a bit of a tradition of co-packers, for instance, being to some extent a black box for brands in terms of what's actually going on out there in the co-packing world. But that's changing, isn't it? And some co-packers like yourselves are embracing that desire to be more transparent to their brand customers, but others are still resisting. So tell us about how you kind of approach that.
Yeah, I mean, there's one comment from one of our customers that sticks in my mind, which was their co-packers used to be their dirty little secret. And the fact that they were making stuff and packing stuff outside their own lovely, shiny factories was really something that you didn't tell the children about. But more and more I'm hearing from our customers and people we would like to be our customers is that actually the whole co-manufacturing, co-packing piece is now at the center of strategies. So that the businesses are thinking, well, yeah, sure, we'll have our big, nice factories doing certain things, but there are other things we're going to want to do elsewhere. So now that's being more embraced. It means that some of the changes we've already been talking about are happening in a very positive and constructive way, in a way that they would never have happened before. So I think a great way of characterizing that co-packer relationship in the past was you'd be sent a tender and somebody would be looking for you to do the cheapest possible price. And once you'd met the cheapest possible price, that was it. Then quality became an issue, so people would check your quality, and that became more stringent. Today, we've moved on hugely from there, and it requires, I think, a lot more maturity in the relationship between supplier and customer. Give an example, we co-pack in food, and we go all the way down to co-packing naked products in clean rooms. And the whole issue around food safety, all of the issues around different allergens that people are wanting to exclude in food now just takes the whole thing up to a different level. The old model of co-packing would never have really worked with that, whereas the new models we're working with, the sharing of information, the fact that our customer can see exactly what's going on in our factory, that allows to build this trust, as we've been talking about, and not just blind trust, but trust built on the evidence of good record keeping and good ways of working, and many more ways of sharing that. So yeah, I think that's what I would say.
Very interesting. And I want to come back to Oliver's point about accountability and governance and so on, and maybe turn to Keivn for a minute about how technology can actually enable that joint accountability between the brand and the external supply chain. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I think it's sort of single version of the truth is sort of really what I think can be achieved. Probably a lot of folks here have something like a quarterly business review with your customers. How do we do in the performance? And what we sort of hear is like right now, that's half that time is sort of like trying to get on page with what really happened. What was the right data? We thought this. Like, no, that's not right. Let me go to my email, check the spreadsheet. Wait, that's not the right one. It's this. What we see is when you have a system tracking everything there, a sort of single version of the truth, those meetings can be focused on like, how do we improve? This is what happened. There's no debate about it. Everyone gets it. This is the truth. How do we drive some continuous improvement? Let's spend our time working on service, working on, root cause analysis, whatever it is. And then, it's not sort of pointing fingers because of nobody trusts the data. It's like, oh yeah, look, I guess, I changed that thing last minute on you. Whoops, I'll not do it the next time. Or, we had a quality issue, so we had to redo something. We won't, we'll fix that for next time. You can just get right in there. And it's a safer space because, the truth doesn't lie, basically.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes an external supplier might be worried about having to feed information up to a brand customer, but in fact, these kind of shared systems allow them also to hold their brand customers accountable.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's something that we really emphasize the mutuality. Like I think one of the things that's unique about our approach is that I think our platform is the supplier collaboration solution most preferred by suppliers, is how I like to think about it, because it's really important for them to want to be on board, and to your point, be able to have a mechanism to also hold their customers accountable, and to maybe get better visibility earlier, to help them run their operations better, use their capacity more effectively, and so on. So absolutely, that's we see our suppliers actually trying to introduce our platform to their customers, because it's actually going to make my life easier as well too. So a lot of the times you typically see it the other way around, but it's enough benefit actually for the suppliers that they're actually introducing it to their customers as well.
Great. I want to move the conversation towards where we're going, the external supply chain ecosystem, what it's going to look like sort of 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And maybe sort of start with a question, because Gavin, you alluded to the changing role of co-packers in relation to their brand customers. And it sounds as though for many that role is becoming more strategic. So we certainly at Nulogy, we hear different reasons why companies will lean more on an external manufacturing network. Maybe it's for more strategic innovation, maybe it's to be able to adapt to demand signals and increase volume capacity and so on. What does that evolution look like? And Manuel, maybe you start with you, sort of where do you think that ecosystem is going, and how the role might be changing?
For pharmaceutical, the ecosystem is still, being, developed digitally. I don't think we have the same level of maturity in pharmaceutical than in other industries, and this is going to become, over the next years, a big transformation, for sure. I think that there is so much value that we can get from this integration, sharing data, and spending time not to blame each other, but really to look for, finding a solution together. That is obviously a strategic evolution for us. Secondly, we are building also tools. We are equipping ourselves with new technologies that we want also to benefit to our external network and to bring it at the same level. There are, of course, challenges, in the global supply chain, in the environment, which are unpredictable more and more, and which requires to address, the risk, to see them earlier, to be able to address them more efficiently. So this integration of the ecosystem as working internally is absolutely fundamental. There are pressures on cost, there are pressure on inventories. The only way to be able to deal with that on top of the increasing challenges is really this integration and partnering. So this is going to make a big evolution, and on top of that, you have the big data, which is coming, where we to be efficient and to be able to utilize all the new technologies that we're developing in our companies. Obviously, we need to access data. And data is not only when are you going to produce and when are you going to deliver the goods. It's to really understand all the steps in the manufacturing processes every day. And with this data, we will be able to really bring new solutions, to anticipate risks, to adapt ourselves to adapt our global supply chain, and also to work jointly and collaborate with our partners in order to improve and to progress together. So it's going to be an acceleration. And this is the difficulty is really when you are used to work, everybody in his shop, moving into a really integrated collaboration. It requires a mindset shift, and this is probably what we are starting from there, and then after, I believe that there will be a take-up and a transformation. The business model is changing for CMOs in pharmaceutical and probably in other industries as well. It's not anymore, producing goods at a given price. Today, it's not anymore that. It's producing good at the best affordable price, with the best service, but also with the data associated. If you don't have the data, you are not able to, to plan, progress, improvement. What you work internally, you cannot translate to the external network. So this is really I think it's going to be a profound transformation of the relationship.
Oliver, would you like to comment on that?
I think there's. I was just listening to where you were going with it. I think fully connecting the processes. So there are some fundamentals around your S&OP process needs to work, and your planning environment works. And if you can engage your co-packers or manufacturers into that way of thinking as well, they think less about short term now, because there'll always be disruption. But if you can keep the execution away from the longer term planning piece, then you start thinking strategically together as well. If you're a manufacturer of any product, your factories are prime manufacturing space. Why do you really want to build downtime in to put some additional added value, but actually production disruption in? So keep your capacity output as its optimum, and transfer, if it's finished goods, to be put into shippers, which seems to be the big thing in supermarkets, for example, at the moment, for additional space. Hey, we're in a product area which can't be promoted at the moment, because there are a number of bits of legislation and things like this. So, but a real model would be, we've removed it away from the factories who used to do this to a service provider that was somewhere not located particularly well in the country. Now, actually, that service will be done within our 3PL provider, so it's close to finished goods. So there's a piece there where it removes the disruption from my current model, and it actually brings it closer to more agility, more flexibility. And actually, my experience of Nulogy is a provider within my 3PL that currently uses it. I asked 3 or 4 or 5 questions to try and break the process to the users on the line. Oh no, we do this, the system does that. I didn't need to see much more. I can trust that where I can see the risks are, the data can control it, the team understand it. There's governance in place there where if there is disruption, we will review the gap or the loss that happened in that particular month, set against some criteria. But ultimately, that's me outsourcing that to 3PL provider who's outsourcing that to their internal co-packer. So again, you've got to have those layers in, but fundamentally it removes the disruption and the inefficiency and the additional road miles and all of the things that seem illogical out of my end-to-end process. So if it's robust and reliable, that has to be the way forwards when cost pressure and other things within supply chain, such a large part of people's businesses now, ever since COVID really highlighted it. More connected, an ecosystem that is one, and you behave as one, is more and more of that has to be. Otherwise, you'll lose competitive advantage if you don't. I think that's quite clear. But you need a system that's going to be trusted and capable, that people can use. And I think the one thing I would just add, and I do recognise, look, it's the team at a level. We run a process internally. Again, I reference the P&G model. It's servant leadership. So anyone in senior position is only there to support the disruption that happens at low level. As long as the data's providing that, actually, the teams will provide their answers. and the only point that things escalate through is because they need additional resource or support or something to help leverage unblocking something. So that's the practical reality, and otherwise I've got all my tail SKUs being made at a factory. It doesn't actually make any sense. So right provider, right system, right relationship, I think that encompasses most of everybody's challenges that we're facing into. If you don't do it, there's definitely a competitive disadvantage that will play out somewhere.
So returning to this concept of kind of where we're going, and there's been a lot of coming back to this issue of an integrated ecosystem, one that's got agility and built into it to deal with the kind of shocks that we've seen over the last few years, being able to anticipate, not necessarily forecast and predict, but be able to respond to change. Keivn, give us a sense of how technology enables that kind of resilience to the unexpected.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it is like speed oriented. So, everybody knows about the bullwhip effect. We're focusing on external supply chains because I think that's where a lot of the pain is. There's like a diagram earlier in the beginning this morning, right? There's lag time, and then there's buffer that's being built in. So if you have like better information faster, you can reduce the waste that's being incurred in the different echelons of the supply chain to be better for the environment, reduce material waste, be more responsive to changes of demand, get products to consumers faster with higher quality. Those are all the benefits. And it's really as easy as just getting that data more accurate and more quickly, which is, it's what technology is perfectly built for. Its cloud is perfectly built for, getting that from the different parties in the network all together in sort of a single pane of glass for everybody in there. So it's sort of a bit of a match made in heaven to solve this problem. And that's why we're seeing like a lot of success and interest in the approach.
Great. I am going to open the floor up to questions shortly, but there is just one other theme that I wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to touch on, and you raised it when you mentioned the ability to reduce waste is enabled by better visibility. Gavin, have you seen changing expectations from your brand customers around sustainability issues, and how are you responding?
Yeah, to start with, we are super audited, I would say. We pack products for FMCG, for retail, and so we are independently, we do BRC. We do a variety of FMCG audits along the way. And because some of our customers are also packing own label, we get visited by retailers on a regular basis. So we could have 12 audits in a year. So all of this is kind of the sort of the preparation, I guess, in this whole area that we're seeing these demands for high standards in what we're doing. And I think that's only going to increase, and certainly we're seeing that with the advent of allergen claims being made on products and so on. So I think that's where we're going. We're going to see more and more of this go into the future. And we do need to be able to demonstrate with our systems that we're on top of these things. So, for example, when you're looking at any quality issues that have been signaled during the production process, you have to have full records available for those and available for your customers and for anybody who's auditing you as well.
Manuel, from your standpoint, sustainability is something you put a big focus on now.
Yes, of course. I think in all industries, all companies, we have objective. We have, it's on the top of the agenda of the group. And again, it requires additional data, additional information. So sustainability, it's how we project our CO2 footprint until 2030, 2035. Our processes are long and complex. Scope 3, it's like all of us, the biggest stake. And the biggest challenge is, in fact, because the Scope 3, it's what is done at external network. So how to capture all the data in order to be able to consolidate a picture of the CO2 footprint on Scope 3, and how we are able to measure progress, to engage our partners into improvement processes. What improvement means to them? Is it matching what it means also for us? And really, it's again, it goes back to data. If we want to be able to meet our midterm objective, I mean, it's a question of measuring. It's a question of being able to go into detail, to be acute, and to identify the areas of improvement, and to be able to develop, action plan on it. And this is not only at the partner level. It requires collaboration. So this is what we are doing, and we see a lot of improvement. Over the past 12 months, we have been able to collect a number of data, and which help us to project in a better way, and also to identify opportunities over the next years in order to bring confidence in the delivery of the objective.
So what I should have mentioned before as well was that following on from all the quality stuff and the audits we're doing, the whole sustainability thing has fallen into the same area as well. And we're finding with some of our bigger customers in particular that we're having to go through external audits on that sort of thing as well. So it's very much front and center of what we're seeing.
We are almost at the point where we need to open it up to questions, or we won't have any time left. So any final thoughts from the panelists before we turn to the audience? Any last words of wisdom?
Just one thing I was going to say, there's a couple of things from the other panelists that struck a chord with me, and one was the use of the word agility going forward, and then also unblocking. I think they were two things. And in terms of agility, what we're seeing is that where we can add value to our customers is where we can find solutions to things that they're not necessarily thinking about too much, or things that come up in conversation. I'll give you an example to illustrate. One thing that surprisingly one of our big customers was struggling with was answering retailer requirements for FSDUs and so on, and doing them quickly. And it turned out that their biggest problem was not being able to put resource on this to make it happen internally. So they worked out that we could do that for them, and that we could easily get the resource ready. We would follow their procedures, order the packaging, manage the whole thing beginning to end, so that they didn't have to worry about it. And it's meant that they've been able to be a lot more reactive with their retail customers in terms of doing things. So that's an example from the agility side. In terms of the unblocking, then I think there are things where things just don't happen. And if you can find out where the roadblock is, there may be a solution that the co-packer can support the customer with. So yeah, I don't know if those are words of wisdom, but there's just a couple of thoughts.
Fantastic.
My 2 cents would just be to make sure you're thinking about speed to value. I think lots of IT or programs and projects in the past, people I think got accustomed to things having to take a really long time, being really complex, and it doesn't really need to be that way. And even if there's a big transformation that's required, have that vision in the future. But it's definitely possible to smart, small, identify a scope that's reasonable, get a win there, and then grow from there, versus sort of trying to take it all on and then getting overwhelmed and stopping. That's kind of the worst thing. It's just start, keep it simple, and then grow from there.
Quick wins.
And I think, the learning for me from my career, I'm the facilitator of people and process being effective. The right provider, I don't need to be the expert in everything. I think the leaders here probably feel they are accountable for that. yeah, you are, but you don't have to deliver all of it. And I think it's find the right partners and the right relationships. The one thing I did here today, anti-fragility, was the new thing that came up, a really interesting point from one of the sessions this morning. So that's something that's got me thinking as well about how do we ensure that if you're the rider going along and you're okay, how others who maybe are more fragile, if that's what plays out, don't fail. And actually, do we bring partners under our wings so that we've got this same level of capability? Or you need new partners that are willing to go on this anti-fragility journey? Because I thought that was an interesting piece. So, but trust and be disappointed later, I think, is the mantra to take away.
Fantastic. Well, I'd love to have any questions from the audience.
Hi, I'm external supply chain manager, planning manager for General Mills. We do have quite a few co-packers external manufacturers, where we're not the biggest customer, we're not the biggest client. So my question is, how would you go about talking to them about that collaboration, about them sharing data, knowing that they're very protective of their data? How would you go, like what would be your advice on how to communicate with them to get there?
Why are they protective of giving you data? Let's lean into it. Why? I mean, I think you've got to start with what's the blockage that's there. Okay, it might be commercial, it might be whatever. Well, you can choose to lean into that and take it further, but your need is potentially you want a better engaged relationship. So why is that not reciprocated back from the partner you're talking to? It's like a relationship, crikey. It's like, what's the matter? Why are you not coming back to me and talking to me? So why is it? And get to the real root cause of what it is,
I think
and you can address it or not.
Yeah, for me, the thing is like, it's more those co-packers where we're not, the biggest customer, where maybe 15, 20% of their volume. How would you get them to see the value in sharing that data?
Okay, not co-packer, but a 3PL. I was 5% of a business 3PL. Because of relationship, I was as valued as the 95% of everybody else. I think you've got to start with that challenge. Co-packing specifically, there might be an answer from co-packing.
I mean, I'm shocked, number one. But so, I mean, if someone was 15% of our business, we'd be, doing everything we could for them. So I think, good advice from Oliver, is there something that they haven't passed on that is the problem? And the thing that is flashing in my mind is maybe they've got poor systems. So if I go back to our pre-Nulogy days, we could usually provide information that people wanted, but sometimes it was horrible. So for example, if we were running a recall simulation, which is something you hope never to do, but it used to take hours. You've got the right systems in place, and suddenly it's something that will take you minutes, and it's just not an issue. Someone asks you to run a recall simulation, you go, okay, we'll do that. So it may be that some of your co-packers don't have the right systems to be able to give you the information. If not, obviously you're starting to think maybe attitude.
We've seen similar for customers who see that, they definitely recognize they're not the biggest customer for their suppliers, but they've introduced our platform because they want to improve the experience of working together, so that although we're a small piece of your business, but we're like the best to work with. Like, you're going to want to work with us, and because it's just so much easier, and then both sides kind of benefit, and also you could sort of lead a little bit in the dance. You're like, here, you know what, this platform, I'm going to give you better visibility with it as well too. You're not going to have to worry about trying to sort out where my orders or forecasts are at or something, whatever it is. You're going to be able to see that more clearly, so you can manage your business better. And then you might start to see the reciprocation coming as well too. It's like, oh, interesting. Yeah, maybe that sharing of data can help us both.
I'd echo that. Whenever we bring a new client onto site, we show them how the system works and how the product is being recorded onto line, offline. Then we'll show them some summary reports and so on. So I think it's a big part of the way to help with this whole trust question.
Other questions? Everybody's ready for the drink or rushing for the train. Okay, well, I want to thank everyone for staying and really appreciate your attention. And I think it's been an absolutely fabulous panel. So thank you, Manuel, Gavin, Keivn, and Oliver. And have a wonderful rest of your day.